Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Apocalypse Bringer, Mynoghra, what's the subtitle? World Conquest Starts with the Civilization of Ruin. I am not going to remember that going forward, so I'm just going to call it by the shorthand title, but yeah. Regardless, tangents and all that aside, I thought it was a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I've always underestimated how many isekais are in existence. I guess it must be like really prevalent genre for like light novels, because most isekais I've come across lately have always been originally light novels. So either way, we get introduced to our main protagonist, Takuto, who was playing a game called Eternal Nations, and it seems like he's sick. We don't know what he's sick from, but he was in like a medical hospital bed. And then when he kind of wakes up, he wakes up in a mysterious world. Initially, like, okay, is he in Eternal Nations? Because in front of him is the character he knew from the game, Atu. She was his favorite character, and the character he loved in the game that he loved. And so she is self-aware, because initially he's like, oh, this must be the game, so she must think I'm like the king of Mynoghra. But she's like, oh, no, I know who you are, that you are Takuto. She's like, she's self-aware of like, I know I'm a character in the game. In fact, when you were playing Eternal Nations, I'd hear you talk to me all the time, even though I couldn't like reciprocate. So she's self-aware, and even saying like, she doesn't even know for sure. This is definitely not Takuto's world, but she's not even sure if it's 100% Eternal Nation, so they might not even be in the game world. They might be in a different world that's kind of similar to Eternal Nations. But essentially, it's like they've been brought together, because she's like, I don't know if it's like this is a reward, because she's like, I didn't bring you here. In fact, I was brought here myself. And so it's a thing of, she knows like he's the number one person on the charts for this game, because he beat the game with the Civilization of Ruin, Mynoghra, and he also did it on like the hardest difficulty, Nightmare. So I don't know if those were rewards that led to this situation. I don't know, maybe he died in his world and that translated over to him being brought to this world. We don't know. Who knows if his illness is even going away post coming to this world. But these two are reunited and they're happy, because especially for Takuto, because he like gets to talk to her now, and it's like, it's actually really super adorable how happy she is to serve him and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, we're going to build our evil empire. She switches up to her like Ojo-sama like voice, and then she's kind of like, oh, like this is what we're going to do. And they're both kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of embarrassing like doing that. She's like, yeah, I kind of felt a little embarrassed doing it too. But basically they're trying to figure out where they're at, and using the game mechanics, he summons a multi-legged scout, and it's like, oh, that's disgusting. It's like, and they send it out to kind of investigate, and then kind of breaking down RPG elements of like, cool, I have 200 MP, I spent 100 MP on that, and 20 points on this and that, and it's like, well, I wish I could have like find a warrior to defend us, but that would cost MP that we don't have, so we have to like use it sparingly and trying to build up our kingdom is what they're planning on doing. Atsu's feeling bad because she's like, oh, I wish I was like strong. I'll be your warrior of defense, but she's like, honestly, I wish I could be, but obviously she doesn't have the strongest stats. But Takuto is making her feel, but no, it's okay. Obviously, you get stronger as the game progresses, so we'll kind of make do with what we have. But they search the general area, but there's no food nor animals here, so which is interesting. So they haven't come across any danger, but the fact is there's no animals too. But they did come across the dark elves that are in that, so it's like, okay, so what do we do? If they're here, that might mean that there's a nearby civilization, but the last thing we want is to, we want to be in a place where we're isolated, because apparently that's always been Mynoghra's like prerogative, just to kind of always, and even Takuto is like, let's be shut-ins, and then Ato's like, yeah, let's kind of cut ourselves off from the world. It's like, it's so interesting how, and really adorable how they're kind of two peas in the pod, like, because even Takuto is like, oh, like this must be her personality. He never really got to see it shine through during the game. Now getting to talk to her, it's like, oh, I wonder, is it just like she's Like maybe that's why she likes Takudo so much, is because they are so in tuned, or did she adopt a bit of his personality just because a little bit of himself naturally imprinted on her throughout all the times all the love and care and passion he put into this game, did it translate over to this version of her? Like maybe this isn't like the exact version of Atto from that game, but maybe like an amalgamation of her with a little bit of him. I don't know. Or maybe it is exactly who she is from the game. She is a pure carbon copy, or exact version of herself from the game. But yeah, they want to avoid anyone else, and it's like, hey, if there's another civilization around, I guess we'll just have to run away. And it's like, yeah, war is barbaric. We're all about peace and safety and stuff like that. And I love that he's kind of like, yeah, like, giving his speech, and she's behind him clapping like, oh yes, my king. I'm like, it's so awesome. Like, she's his number one fan. But yeah, they get confronted by the Dark Elves, which the Dark Elves had been an ostracized people. They were excommunicated. Because they're the regular elves, the light elves, and they're kind of seen as like, oh, you should be grateful that the light elves, the elves in general, allowed you to continue existing, because you guys turned away from the light, and we saw like through some of what Gil was, thinking about, like the dark elves were like killed, like hanged, put on like spears and stuff. It's like, that was brutal. But yeah, there's so many of them. They're out here starving and they want to find food. But one of the elves, her name is Emo, talks about like there being a dark figure that was sealed away here long ago. And I think it's so fascinating that we see it in the intro, but I guess this is how everyone outside of Atto sees him. I'm curious, is it a thing of, if you join his party, you see Takumo, Takuto as who he really is, but unless you have a connection with him, you just see him as this dark figure? Or is that always going to be how everyone sees him except for Atu? Like maybe Atu will only be the one to ever see him for who he is. I'm curious to see like some clarity on that going forward. But yeah, he looks like this ominous figure. In fact, you know what he kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of Mob from Mob Psycho, specifically when Mob enters that question mark forming. He's kind of like this shadowy figure. It kind of heavily reminds me of that. Because also interesting too is like he couldn't really communicate with the dark elves. In fact, Atu had to be the one to kind of communicate and be the in between. And I thought it was a thing of like the way he talked about it later on made it sound like I was like first like, oh, can you not communicate with them? Yeah, like Gia like tries to explain himself because he's like fearful, because he's like, oh my god, this dark being that was sealed away here, I'm so scared. Let me explain what we're all about. And Natu is like, hey, cut it out. We didn't ask for like a lengthy story, but basically it's like, yeah, we're here, we're starving. And then Takudo, being so smitten by their story and just feeling so bad for them, he uses his magic to make food. And it's like, oh, Gia's like, I'm so grateful for this, but the fact is, could you possibly, like, I want this food to go back to the people who are waiting. They're starving, they haven't eaten in days. And he's like, I'm so sorry for them. And he immediately makes even more food, but you could see Atu like freaking out, because it's like, right, he's burning away their MP the more of this food he's making. And I guess that's why they didn't really make any for themselves up until this point in time. They probably kept, I would assume, kept some of that for themselves, but maybe they left all that bread, vegetables, and fruit solely for the dark elves. But because it's like, right, they didn't want to have to keep expanding like MP, like who knows how much he's burned through. And we also don't know what his recovery rate is. Like, will it be a thing of after 24 hours, after like a full day, it fully recovers? Or is it like, does he only recover a certain percentage? It depends on RPG rules. So, but yeah, the dark elf goes back and is able to feed so many of his people. And the elder that's with him asks him a question. He's like, yo, Amel told that story, and I think I came across that dark beam. It's like, oh, what's its name? It's like, well, he didn't give a name. In fact, we kind of talked to the subordinate that worked for him. And he's kind of talking about like the story of like, right, the King of Ruin, that basically when the world is at its saturation point, like the King of Ruin will appear and he will basically restart everything. Like everything kind of has to start from the beginning, which I think is probably for the best in this regard. Kind of, I don't know if I have no idea what to expect from the story and where it'll go, but I don't know from their perspective it's like, oh, the world's going to start from scratch in the regards of certain civilizations need to be built from the ground up of like, their foundation essentially, especially for the Dark Elves who seem to have no world of their own, no realm of their own. So I guess maybe they'll eventually become members of the civilization of ruin. I don't know. But the elder's kind of very doubtful of this dark being. But Gia's calling him Grace. He's like, whoa, why would you do that? You saved that for someone who's respectable. It's like, yo, this guy gave us food, so of course I'm going to be respectable to him. Because even the elder's like, I don't know if he's this king of ruin. Maybe he is, maybe it isn't. But like this dark being, obviously, like, now that I've eaten my mana's recovered a little bit, that I recognize, this forest is kind of like, there's something about it. I mean, it's literally known as the accursed forest, but something sinister and off and abnormal about it. So it is, and I think that kind of speaks volumes. It is the starting point for Atu and Takuto, so maybe there's even more to that. The fact is that there is no animals around, so we'll have to wait to kind of get further explanation, but it's just kind of a nice start. And then cut back to Ato, like, getting pissed at Takuto, like, making such a unilateral decision. She's like, you have to save your MP, here you are burning it. And she's just like, and pissed at him. And he's like, I'm really sorry. Like, if there's anything to make up for you, I'll do anything you want. She's like, anything? Like, she's like, you don't have to go that far. I'm really, like, she was kind of, I think, about to take her, like, put herself down, being like, I'm not worthy of you, kind of willing to do anything for me. It's like, don't waste such words on me. He's like, but I really need you, Atu. And she's like, oh my God, my lord, I'm so sorry. I was being such an, idiot, dissonant. Like, how dare I question my king's authority? I'm like, that's so adorable. It's like all he needed to hear was like that. All she needed to hear was that I really need you. And she's like, oh my God, and she capitulates so hard. She kind of put up that tsundere front, even though, like, she's just full, like, nah, I'm really into you. I'm willing to serve you. I'm your subordinate, so I should kind of follow you without question. But then Takuto was like, yo, like, did you notice that I couldn't really communicate with the Dark Elves? And she kind of took it as like, oh, I thought that was you role-playing the role of like a Dark Lord that kind of doesn't really speak. He speaks in short bursts, but like leaves it up to his subordinate to speak. And Takuto was like, oh no, he's like, I think I just recognize I'm just an awkward person. Because he's like, oh, like, I have no problem talking to you, but it seems like once I talk to other people, I have an issue. He's like, even the doctors and nurses at the hospital, like, the conversations didn't really go anywhere, and there wasn't really a rapport built between us because that was me. And she's like, no, I'm so sorry. She's like, I didn't mean to make you cry. Like, don't cry, my lord. She's like, being like, oh, no, like, it's up to you to kind of be the silent type while I speak for you. So it's totally perfectly fine. And then his scout comes back and just screeches out. I'm like, quite the interesting crew we got immediately. So like I'm assuming like Gia and the Dark Elves will join maybe. Because the whole point was like, typically they're neutral, but usually they're dark or evil neutral. So they might be more inclined to, especially because they're all about, hey, if we need to, we don't have to fight, we can run away. But it's all about peace, and let's kind of keep ourselves locked away from the world. Considering this, the Dark Elves are kind of ostracized, like, this feels like the perfect matchup. So we'll see where things go, because the Elder says that he wants to go talk to Takuto. So we'll see what those conversations potentially, what the aftermath of them are, and where this all goes. But just an interesting, cute first foray into this story. Like I said, there's a lot we don't know, like Takuto's circumstances, what this world actually is, and how this is all going to play out. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.